On May 11th, 1997, in a small New York City conference room, something happened which is going to change all of our lives. It's been hailed as one of the most momentous occasions in human technology, on a par with the Wright brothers' first flight or the moon landing. In the middle of that room was a table, and on that table was a chessboard. On one side of the chessboard sat Garry Kasparov, the world's greatest chess player. And the other side was Dr. Murray Campbell, who was a software engineer for IBM. Dr. Campbell's job was to move the chess pieces at the instruction of IBM's artificial intelligence supercomputer, Deep Blue. But Deep Blue didn't think and play chess like a human, with human intuition and creativity. Instead, it played like a machine, systematically evaluating up to 200 million moves per second using brute force logic. But the reason why the room was packed this day with news crews and journalists from all over the world was this wasn't just about a game of chess. This was about the contest between human versus machine, a contest that would define this century. The first game began, and Kasparov played a move called the King's Indian Attack, which allowed him to take the advantage and win the first game. 1-0 to the human race. Yay! But game 2 was essentially a draw, and this put Kasparov off balance. By the time they got to game 5, someone overheard Kasparov saying, "I'm not afraid to admit, I'm afraid." And then in game 6, something extraordinary happened. In an opening gameplay, Kasparov made a mistake that was so obvious, the spectators in the room gasped in disbelief. Deep Blue had won the game. Deep Blue had won the match. It's 5 times easier to become a dollar billionaire than it is to beat Garry Kasparov at chess. This was proof, if ever we needed it, that machines were finally able to do the kind of complex cognitive tasks that we'd always thought were the preserve of our human-developed brains. The machines were finally coming for the white-collar workers, the college-educated, the decision-makers. One report by the University of Oxford says that nearly 50% of jobs could disappear over the next few years because of these exponential technologies. Those jobs that involve doing routine tasks or analytical work will disappear first. So, what can you and I do in order to stay relevant in this new age? There is one skill that you need to develop more than any other in order to not just survive, but to thrive in the age of artificial intelligence. Now, here's some good news. Everyone in this room just now already has this skill. You were all born with it. My job is to show you how you can develop it. And that skill is your creativity. According to the World Economic Forum, creativity is going to move from the 10th most important job skill to the 3rd most important job skill by next year. It's going to be more important than negotiation skills and creative thinking. You know, IBM, who are the inventors of the Deep Blue computer that beat Garry Kasparov at chess, interviewed 1,500 global CEOs. According to these global CEOs, creativity is now the most important leadership quality for success in business today. Jack Ma, who's Asia's richest man and the founder of Alibaba, one of the pioneers in AI, was recently asked, what skills should we be investing in our schools, our universities, and our businesses? And he said, don't bother competing with machines on things that could do better, faster, and cheaper. You have to focus on that one advantage that you have as a human. Your creativity, your curiosity, your ability to innovate. I was brought up in Scotland, a land of castles, golf, whiskey. As a child, my parents used to send me up the mountains to go and walk the summits of these mountains near where we lived. But they would make me walk up it dressed in a kilt. Now, for those uninitiated, a kilt is basically a traditional dress or a skirt that a Scotsman wears. So imagine walking up these huge mountains in the rain and the wind and the snow while wearing a skirt. My parents thought it built character and resilience. And the reason I tell you this story is you can think of this 4th industrial revolution like a landscape that's slowly being flooded. But this is a landscape of human skills or competences. In the lowlands, we have skills like arithmetic, memorization. In the foothills, you have skills like chess playing and logic. And in the high mountain peaks, you have emotional intelligence, critical thinking. 50 years ago, the first wave of automation came through, drowning out the lowlands, taking away many blue-collar jobs, but leaving most of us high and dry. But now, this flood is reaching the foothills. And those knowledge workers, like you and I, are having to contemplate retreat and trying to get to that higher ground. Creativity is at the peak of that mountain, above the flooded plains and foothills. But we have a little bit of a problem. Most people in the world do not consider themselves to be creative. One study by Adobe said that 60% of the population worldwide, if you ask them, will say they're not creative. In fact, my friend Dr. K.H. Kim recently did a study, and she found that while IQ levels around the world have been increasing, creativity levels have actually been declining. Time magazine calls it the creativity crisis. What's going on? Why do most people today either not consider themselves to be creative, or if they do consider themselves to be creative, they're not doing anything to develop that skill? Because I believe you were all born with almost unlimited creative potential. The only proof you need for that is spend time with a 5-year-old. Give them some crayons or some paints. Watch as they create. They lose all track of time. They're in what psychologists would call a flow state. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Now, think of your average office or work environment. As you look around those people, are they in a flow state? Are they creating? Are they being curious? All too often not. What's going on? There's one myth that we tell ourselves as adults that stops us from doing our most creative, our most innovative work. I call it the myth of the lone creative genius. It's this idea that creativity is purely an individual pursuit. Nothing could be further from the truth. For the first 20 years of my working life, I managed the careers of high-profile music artists, multiple Grammy Award winners. It's an interesting job. Sometimes I'd stand there at the side of the stage, watching my artist as they performed. And if I look to my left, I can see the thousands, the tens of thousands of people having a great time. But if I look to my right, I can see backstage, out of sight and out of view. Now, you as an audience member, you only get to see the person on the stage with the spotlight on them and the microphone. You rarely get to see the hundreds, 200 people backstage who are just as much a part of making this a creative and successful show as the person with the microphone in their hand. The media loves this idea of the lone creative genius. The singer with the spotlight on them, or the CEO on the front cover of the magazine, as if that CEO had single-handedly built that business. You know it's a lie. It's a fiction. Creativity is collaborative. Creativity is a team sport. After Garry Kasparov was beaten by Deep Blue, he went to a pretty dark place. Imagine what it would feel like to have spent your whole life becoming really skilled at something, only for a machine to come along and do it better, faster, and ultimately cheaper. That sensation is going to be felt by hundreds of millions of people over the next few years. But after Kasparov and the other chess grandmasters had dusted themselves off, they thought, what about, instead of thinking of these machines as our competitors, what about if we thought of them as our collaborators? And what happened next in the world of chess is a useful preview of what's going to happen in all of our jobs. As we now start to see the era of human versus machine competition ends, an entirely new one is opening up based upon human plus machine collaboration. And these hybrid collaboration systems are called centaurs, after the half-human, half-beast creatures of ancient Greek mythology. A modern equivalent would be if you watch the movie Iron Man, and you have the Tony Stark character, played by Robert Downey Jr., and he has an AI assistant called Jarvis, and together, the human and the AI build and create these amazing things. But today, this isn't a fiction. In chess, centaur chess players exist. A centaur chess player is a human chess player paired with an AI. And a centaur chess player, that human working alongside an AI, will be any human chess player any day of the week. But it'll also be any AI working on its own. That's because centaurs combine our ability to be strategic and creative with a machine's ability to be tactical. And when you apply this centaur mindset to doing any type of creative or innovative work, I call this super creativity, augmenting your human creative potential with these exponential technologies. You know, as humans, we're creators. We're makers, we're builders of things, of products and services, companies and countries. Most of the time, though, the initial idea has to start with a human. But what about instead if we had the idea start with the AI? What we have, if you look around an Airbus A380, for example, have a look around the plane, and as you look around the interior, you'll see many of the panels and things in there being co-creations between human designers and artificial intelligence. What the designers do is they can give the AIs, essentially, tell them what they want to create. They say it needs to weigh this much, it needs to be this much size, it needs to be made from these materials. The AIs will then create thousands of different designs based upon this criteria. Then the human team review these designs and decide which ones they want to pursue and create prototypes of. The final designs, which are lightweight, strong, and durable, may have not been the kind of designs that a human or an AI could have created on their own. It's super creative. Even the speech today uses a type of super creativity. I use an AI to analyze you, the audience. Let me share how it works. All I had to do was to give the AI the social media account of this particular conference. The AI is then able to go and look at that and create a map for me of your personality, of the psychographics of the room. What is important to you, your needs, your values. I can then give the AI my talk, my presentation, and it then looks and tells me the personality of my talk. And then when I overlay the personality and the psychographics of my talk with the personality of you, the audience, it tells me what the gaps are, what needs to be worked on. So I could see immediately that you value trust highly. So I'm going to add more trust indicators like social proof and data. I could also see you're open to new ideas. You're critical, but you're also curious. You're also highly attractive. Actually, it didn't tell me that last bit. So when you make that combination and you combine your ability to tell a story and make a presentation with a machine's ability to spot the patterns, you become like a centaur. It looks like magic, but it's not. It's data. Isn't it amazing? Imagine what you could do if you could combine the best of you with some of these exponential technologies. Imagine the products and the services that you could create. Imagine the problems and challenges that we could solve in the world. But in order to get there, it requires that we do things differently and we do different things. You see, in that centaur relationship, the role of the AI is to crunch the data, is to be the tactician. Your job is to be the strategist, the architect, the super creative. So every day you go into work, you have to work on developing your creativity. And when I go and work with governments and companies on helping develop the creativity in their people, I talk about these 4 types of creativity that we all need to develop. I call them TIPS, TIPS for short. It stands for team, individual, peer, and super creativity. Team creativity is about building a creative culture in an organization, one of diversity, one that's willing to ask questions, about using creative collaboration. Individual creativity is those things that you can do as an individual to develop your own creative thinking skills so you can be better at generating and developing ideas. Peer creativity is what TED is all about. It's about where we come together to debate, discuss, and challenge ideas. And then super creativity is where you augment your own human natural creativity with some of these exponential technologies. I'll leave you with a final little story. This is the next chapter in the development of this idea of super creativity and human plus machine. This is about another game, but this isn't chess. This is a game of Go, ancient Chinese board game. It's a beautiful game. There are more potential moves in the game of Go than there are atoms in the universe. It's an incredible game. And this was a game between Lee Sedol, the world's greatest Go player, and Google's DeepMind, which is an AI lab based in London that created a machine that was able to learn how to play the game of Go. Now, no one expected an AI to be able to win a game as complex and as beautiful as Go. But in those first few games, the AI kept winning. But then, in game 4, something interesting happened. In move 78, Lee Sedol, the human, played a move that was so creative, so innovative, so inspired, that it immediately took the game of Go to an entirely new level. Amongst Go players, it's been dubbed the God's Touch. Now here's my question. Would Lee Sedol, the human, have ever have made that move if he hadn't been challenged by an AI? Today, Go players played match after match alongside AIs, and they're seeing their world ranking skyrocket because these exponential technologies will actually help us understand something of our true creative potential. I believe everyone here in this room has almost unlimited creative potential. In this room just now, there could be the future Pablo Picassos, Frida Kahlos, Steve Jobses, Zaha Hadid's. In this room just now, you could be sitting next to someone who's going to revolutionize your industry or your field. That person could be you. But you'll only get there if you can go from saying to yourself, not just I am creative, but using and adopting these exponential technologies to be able to say, I am super creative. Thank you very much.